So I'm going to talk about the product that you don't want to see, ultimately. So it's always a bit of a challenge to market it. So essentially this first slide covers what's in the Healthy Home Guide. So if you look online, you'll see this slide, and essentially you can see here 30 to 35% of the heat is going out the windows. With designs today, people want more glass. So in fact, in a lot of cases, that's worse. So you need higher performing glass. Single glazing just doesn't cut the mustard anymore. So when we're looking at product development, we're looking at leveraging what we can learn from people offshore. So here what we've done is take New Zealand, flip it around, same position against Europe. But we're a long skinny island, so it's different. We have we're much closer to the sun in the summer than they are in Europe. We have clean air, big ozone hole. So our summer heating is different than Europe. So you can't necessarily just say, hey, I'm going to take this location because it's a similar temperature. There are other factors to consider. So we did some work some years ago now. We divided New Zealand up into 4 areas as to what we thought it would be. For some of you who would have seen the MB submissions, they're looking at moving the building code to 6. So it'd be 6 different zones across New Zealand, which would require different performance characteristics. Unfortunately, at the moment, they're not bringing solar control into it, which is an area we think needs a lot more effort than is currently being applied. So I'm going to move this so I can move around. So one of the key things we look at is this little slide here is showing you, if you take a bit of single glazing, move to double glazing, move to triple glazing, you make a bit of a step up. Add low E to that, and standard, our entry-level low E would be better than triple glazing. Next layer, a more higher performing low E, you jump again. Then when you move to triple glazing, you're adding a little bit more. So if you're looking for very, very high performance, those small incremental gains are going to be key. But if you're looking for just a healthy home in the middle, you can achieve that with double glazing in a good frame. So you're stepping towards the ultimate goal. And ultimately, this glass technology is rapidly improving. You only need to look at your mobile phone, pick up your mobile phone. If you'd had that 10 years ago, you'd just be amazed at what it can do. So glass technology is continuing to evolve. So these selective low E's, which I'm just going to show you on the next one. So when we look at solar control, you get massive jumps. So the low E is laid up, it's microscopic layers of silver that you can see through. And essentially they dial that up so it blocks out certain bandwidths of the light. So it can let through the visual light and block out the hot, and vice versa when you're turning around the other way. So it's extremely clever. You mostly can't see it. You might see a slight sheen on the glass, which will be different than a standard bit of glass. And if you add extra panes of glass, you don't actually improve this factor. So all you're going to do is reduce your visible light. And if we look at the old technology, which would have been to use a tint, so you get your tinted glasses, that's this one in the middle. So a low E will give you better performance than a tint and still make your home nice and light and bright. So you don't want to live in a dark room, but you also don't want it to overheat. So there's a bit of a balance there. So this next one shows you the various layers of visible light, which is the yellow bars. And then the other one coming up is the amount of solar control. So this one here, which is the latest one we have, is showing you quite a bit of light coming in, but massive improvement in solar control. If we go single float or single glazing, a lot of light, no solar control. So you're going to be living in a heat box or a glass house or something like that. So there are different levels of performance that you can now achieve that weren't possible before. So I'm racing through. I'm going to catch us some time up. So essentially, when you're looking at your glazing, you need to think of what are the key things you want to achieve. Because you can't necessarily have everything, but you want to think is what are the most important things for me in this home, in this location. Whether you're retrofitting, so changing out your old single glazing for double glazing, or whether you're building a new home, what are the key things? So is it north facing? I'm going to have some summer heat issues. I want to consider that. Or Or is it south facing? I'm going to freeze in the winter. I want to consider that. So try and have those things sort of prioritised in your mind. Typically we find the top three are winter comfort is the one that drives most people. So most people are thinking about that first, then summer comfort, and then how much natural light do I want? How light and bright do I want it to feel? Because there's this design trend to bring the outside in. So I want to feel like I'm part of nature, less the neighbours are right next door, then I might want a bit of privacy, so I don't want them necessarily looking in. And noise reduction in infill housing. It's another factor that needs to be considered. And fading for some people, furniture, those sort of things that want to protect their precious couch. They don't want it fading, so that becomes a key driver for them. So what we've done here on these two slides is just go, okay, if I want to keep my home cool and I want to keep it warm, then the performance coming into this corner is the best for both. But if it's only important for me to keep it warm and nothing else, then up here is fine. I don't need to worry about the other factors. So we often, when we're talking to people, we're trying to get them to think about what's really important. Don't just jump at one factor, because you need to consider the others, because it may be a trade-off. So you might have gone here, and as Joe mentioned, I've got a really high-performing thermal insulation product, but it's got no ability to stop the sun. I'm going to create a heat box. So it's going to be warm in the summer, and I'm going to be super hot in the winter. The other way around. Warm in the winter and super hot in the summer. So obviously you don't want to be doing that. And that is pretty much it. I've done 7 minutes. The quickest speaker in the room, I get a prize or something, chocolate or fish. Not quite. So this last slide is also on the Superhome website. So this just covers some of the items that were covered in the base, better and best. And we went out, where we first launched our low E range, we thought of it as good, better, best. We're now starting to think of other attributes. So it might be good, better, best for one attribute, but it doesn't necessarily cover the others. So as we move to 6 zones and all those sort of things, we'll be dialing in particular products to meet the requirements for that area.